Paul Brown said to me, son, act like you've been there before. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I just barely got on the field. I hadn't been there before. So
I'm glad to be part of that trend. You know, sun's out, guns out.
How about Isaac Curtis on one side, Charlie Joyner on the other side? A lot of quarterbacks were very envious that I had those two weapons to throw to. But
now, wait a minute. Is it fair that Pat McInally is still the sexiest guy on our team? Is that
you got me there. You got me good.
Donald, how you gonna be in that video not represent with a chain? Your tango, man. I got mine on. I'm ready to go.
Oh, that's great. That's priceless.
There are two guys that I think it's a travesty that are not in that Hall of Fame.
Ken Riley and Ken Anderson. Yeah, sure.
Let's put the backdrop on, Jamie. See if Marissa's okay with it.
Yeah, I got her back. Starting the Canadian fan club up here for you.
That is so funny.
My last touchdown, and that's what Joe Burrow's going to end up like if they don't start protecting his ass. It's going to be the next David Klingler, David Klingler.
There's no Spanish-speaking people here, very few. So we, fast forward, we go to the Super Bowl in Miami, and the word was the Bengals have two big Mexican offensive linemen. They don't know how to speak Spanish. So I got down there and started doing these interviews in Spanish, and they're like, "Wait, we heard you don't speak Spanish."
What's going on, fellas? What's going on? But I got on the plane one day in an all red Suge Knight suit. And boy, Joe Walters and the linemen, they destroyed me. I thought for sure I was so clean. I had some gaiters on, all red suit on. I was Suge Knight. They roasted me.
The head coach was the pain in the butt. The Jerry Glenn, he thought he was. If you didn't know who he was, he walked out there like he owned his state. And I always say, if I could get a chance to hit him on the sideline, I would.
I'm tackling your ass, Pete. I'm shoestring low on you.
But I got to tell you, you have been stepped on, son. You would have had cleats everywhere.
Well, I'm proud to be a Bengal. Yes, I'm proud to be a Bengal. Always been. And I got nothing from you guys.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to actually our first edition of Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends for Season 3, the defending AFC Championship Bengal Free Agency edition of Talking Football with Bengal Jims. Good to see everybody again. We've taken a little time off here. Tom, we got a guest with us today, and we've got some people missing, man.
Well, we've got Malik Wright, who's going to come back on, one of our great guests from last season, who was just, like Josh said, sort of the Nostradamus of Bengaldom last year when it came to free agents. And he was reporting it before anybody else, before any of the local scribes. He's got to have Paul Brown Stadium bugged. So we're lucky to have him on. We've got Josh back. Work schedule coincides, so now we got Josh back. And I don't want anybody to panic. James and Jamie are fine. James, they're doing their thing. James is being super husband, super dad, running his business, doing fine. And Jamie the same. He's being super dad, super fiance. And also, I believe this week he got his cat neutered. Thank God for those that watch the show every week last year. So, but they're fine, and they'll be back very soon.
Good stuff. Josh, welcome, buddy.
Hey, man. Glad to be back.
Good. So, guys, we got a lot of stuff to get into tonight. We'll have Malik on here in about 5 or 10 minutes. About 8:10 is when he's going to come on. So Jamie is our normal producer. I have not produced a show by myself in forever. So hang with us, bear with us as we go through this tonight. I think I'm going to be okay with this, but got a couple things we want to get into here before Malik comes on. Let's talk about Josh. As you can see, Josh's name there is Cincy Bob's. So first of all, Josh, tell us a little bit about Cincy Bob's and what's going on, because you got some really big stuff. You've been working on something really long really hard for a really long time. You got some stuff lined up here. What's going on?
So absolutely. So when I joined the show last year, a lot of people were writing me like, "Hey man, you have a great collection. What's that behind you?" And people would email me about hey, I saw your bobbleheads, I saw your posters, I saw everything. You got a great collection. And someone asked me if they could see my Anthony Munoz bobblehead. And I said, they don't have one. It doesn't exist. And he said, what? How does Anthony Munoz not have a bobblehead? And I said, lots of Bengals greats don't have a bobblehead. There's no Munoz. There's no Ken Riley. There's just a very limited Ken Anderson that you guys had in club years ago. But it's like, how do all these Bengals? So I took it upon myself to get in contact with Forever Collectibles, and they have the franchising rights to a lot of the Bengal great players. And we got together and we produced a Anthony Munoz bobblehead.
So let's pull that up here, bro. Let's pull this up here real
quick. There you see it. It's number.
Go ahead, Josh.
You guys with me?
Yeah, you're a little delayed, but you're good.
Sorry, my computer started. Okay. So this is the finished product. We went through a ton of hurdles to get this thing done. Originally, I wanted to have like a Ring of Honor line, and Cincinnati, the actual franchise, didn't want me to do it because it was their inaugural season, which I completely understand. So they didn't really want me to do that. So I kind of came up with this Bengals Legends line. So here it says Bengals Legends, Anthony Munoz, and it has the years that he played, 1980 through 1992 for the Cincinnati Bengals. So this will be our first release. I'm super happy with the way that it turned out. Munoz on the back there. There is the license through FOCO on the bottom. You can see that they're numbered out of 288, and they come in an officially licensed box. Anthony Munoz. It's sponsored through the Hall of Fame and Heirloom Framing. And then you can see the Cincy Bob's logo on the side of the box, Hall of Fame on the back. And when you purchase one, each one comes with a CO on myself and Hollis. So it's a great company that we were able to start with your best friend. It's really exciting. So we're doing our first release this Saturday at Heirloom Framing. It's going to be from noon until 4. So that's Saturday, March 19th, noon until 4 at Heirloom Framing. That's at 722 Nillis Road in Fairfield, Ohio. You can come down and you can meet us and purchase your bobblehead. We accept cash. We accept PayPal. And a portion of the proceeds we are going to donate to the Anthony Munoz Foundation, which is a great local cause that I'm sure everyone's heard of. So it's a really exciting time, and I'm finally happy that it's coming together.
So let's talk about that a little bit deeper, Josh. So this Saturday from 12 to 4 up at Heirloom Framing, there was a lot of people that emailed you in advance, right, to hold them a bobblehead, correct? So those people could come pick them up, or even if they didn't send an email, they can get up there and get one.
Yes. There should be plenty still available. I think last I checked, 156 of them were spoken for, and they are out of 288. So we have plenty of room left. If people want to come down to Heirloom Framing on Saturday and pick one up, we'll be there from noon to 4, like we said. But if you want to shoot me an email, you can do so at cincybobs@yahoo.com, and I'll add you to the reserve list, and we'll hold one for you. That way, if you can't make it right at noon or you want to come forward, need special arrangements, we offer shipping. It's going to be $15 to ship, unfortunately, but with the pricing and shipping right now, that's about the best that we could do. But we've already shipped out, like they call us, said he's got about 30 of these boxed up to go out tomorrow. So,
got it. So, I mean, if anybody's a collector out there at all, these bobbleheads and things that have been made 10, 20, 30 years ago, they only make so many of them. This is a very select few, 288 bobbleheads. So you got to snatch these up, man, because somewhere down the road, 5, 10 years from now, you're going to see these on eBay selling for double, triple that with Josh selling them for. These are $50 a piece, right, Josh?
Probably, yeah. I mean, the Bengals fan club bobbleheads that existed in the early 2000s, late 90s, I mean, they're going on eBay for $300, $400 a piece.
Yeah, crazy. Tom, you never imagine that when you did those bobbleheads for the fan club, they'd be going for $300 or $400 right now?
Not at all.
No. So, Josh, a little bit more about it. So, are you allowed talking about maybe the line of potential bobbleheads you have coming down the road? Is that something? I know you're into work doing some things, but I'm not sure what you're able to share.
Yeah. So the Ken Riley bobblehead was one that I really wanted to do. Kenny Riley's one of my all-time favorite Bengals. Of course, way before my time, but you do the research and watch the old footage, and that guy was just amazing. He deserves the Hall of Fame bid. we can't wait for him to get in the Hall of Fame, and he will get in the Hall of Fame. But we're ready. It's past due. It's time to do it. So I just took it upon myself to, continue his legacy by immortalizing him with our next bobblehead. So those are going to arrive. There's actually a picture of that on the Cincy Bob's Facebook page, which people can go there and join. Those will be out in late summer. I'm hoping August. We'll have Ken Riley. And if you come out this Saturday to pick up your bobblehead, we're going to have raffle tickets where you can sign up and potentially win a Ken Riley bobblehead for free when they come in this August. As far as that, nothing else is really set in stone as far as the third and fourth release, but we hope to have 4 bobbleheads out this year. So by Christmas, if all goes well, everyone will have 4 brand new Cincy Bobs sitting on a shelf collecting dust somewhere.
Nice. I will be bringing the tailgate bus up to Heirloom Framings and letting it sit up there all afternoon. So if you can't find a store, look for the bus. You'll see that thing sticking out like a sore thumb. You'll know you're in the right spot when you see the bus. So look forward to seeing everybody up there. We will be up there for a little bit for sure. All right, guys, let's get into, before Malik comes on, let's get into one more thing here, guys. We last year kind of give everybody an update where we finished at with our fundraising campaign. $58,565.67, everybody. That's just unbelievable. That was our season last year. We blew away any record that we've had in any of our previous years that we've done fundraising. So that's a thank to you and everybody viewing, not just Bengal fans here in Cincinnati, but Bengal fans across the country and internationally that helped out with these the fundraising campaigns that we did. Awesome job. We've already kicked off our first one for 2022 season. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up here fairly quickly. We are working with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society here locally. A good friend of mine, Leslie Eiler, is in remission for this lymphoma, but she's still dealing with a lot of treatments. So this is a campaign we're doing for Leslie, raising money for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Cincinnati here. So we're right now at a $5,000 goal, and we're a little over $2,500, a little over halfway there right now. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to try to post this link in the chat area if it lets me. And if you want to help us out with that particular campaign, that link should be in the chat area right now. If you want to help us out with that charity, get us to that $5,000 goal. We appreciate everybody. We're obviously targeting to jump over the $59,000 that you guys raised last year. So we got some big aspiration, big plans for this year. There's some events coming up here soon. There's a potential pub crawl again, like we did last year, potentially coming up there. Del Hall and us, the tailgate group, is working with the Ken Anderson Alliance. There will be a 5K that's going to finish on the field at Paul Brown Stadium. That date, I want to say it's April 11th, but there hasn't been any information kicked out about it. We're hoping to get that out to everybody this week. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have a full-blown tailgate set up. The 5K will finish on Paul Brown Stadium, so a lot of people will be walking that. You can actually get your team in the 5K, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead, and I think Malik's ready. Malik, you're in the waiting room right now, big dog. Can you hear us? Yeah, he's good. Hey, hold on. I just saw a smile there. Let's go ahead and get him on here. So, Malik, what's going on? Malik, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you? How you guys doing?
Good, brother. Good. So,
good.
So I didn't do the introduction. I was trying to figure out how to introduce you, Malik. So, Malik Wright, obviously, everybody knows who Malik is. Anybody on Twitter for sure. The Right Way Sports Network. Last year, this guy was like the Nostradamus of the Houday Nation, guys. I mean, obviously, he's not revealing anything specific tonight, guys, because he's got to protect sources and those type of things. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about, Malik. So, hell, some breaking news not that long ago, Malik. Let's go ahead and kick it off here, brother. Let's talk about what are some of our – just talk about our needs. Let's talk about a few position needs that we need to tackle in either free agency and the draft.
For sure. First and foremost, gentlemen, guys, thanks for letting me invite me to come on again. Sorry if my voice is a little hoarse, kind of losing it. But obviously the offensive line is a position that the Bengals absolutely need to attack in free agency. Rest assured, they know they have to attack offensive line in free agency. And the best I could tell you is that the offensive line will look drastically different. It won't look the same as it did this season. I also wouldn't rule out a defensive back in the draft or in a free agency as well. I think you could also see another pass rusher added at some point, and just bring some of our guys back as well.
Let's talk about it. So obviously, I think I heard you offensive line. I don't think anybody disagrees with you there, right? Offensive line, maybe a DB, and maybe some D line, depending on what happens here in free agency with our current players. Tom, you hit on a little bit about our current guys here. I know you wanted to hit on that.
Yeah, Malik, from the guys we've got a lot of guys up for free agency. Who do you see as musts to bring back? Who do we have to bring back? And who do you think that, well, maybe just from a financial standpoint, it's not going to work this time? We may see some, it always hurts, but we may see some guys we like go.
This is going to sound insane right now, and I hope Bengals fans don't crush me for this. Appreciate you guys. Who day. Appreciate that, John. I don't think that there's anybody who we haven't franchise tag yet, hint, who I would look at and say that they need to be brought back. Does that make sense? I don't think that there's anybody who I would look at and say they need to be brought back, which is a luxury position the Bengals are in. Now, certainly there are some locker room guys, some guys that were good for culture, some guys that brought energy who you would love to see back because they did their job at an adequate level, but you can certainly upgrade the position. Guys like CJ Uzomah, that's a guy you'd like to see back in stripes. But in terms of necessity, I don't know. Huber had a down year this year. We certainly need to get better in the special teams department. And I feel like sometimes the special teams unit didn't always do the defense justice, and the defense still played, out of their mind. So I don't know. I think that I don't think there's anybody that we necessarily need to bring back. I know the Bengals would like to bring back Stanley Morgan. I know the Bengals would like to bring back CJ Uzomah. I think I could see Eli Apple coming back. Eli Apple was very fond of, Lou Anarumo in this defense. He was fond of him in New York. He's fond of him here. I don't think that the Bengals necessarily need to bring anybody back, which is a cool position that they're in, though.
Well, let's push you a little bit on that. So Ogunjobi and BJ Hill, they're both not coming back. Your take on that? One of those two have to come back, right?
Yeah, I think that both of them, ideally, you would like to see them both back in stripes, but the way it's a weird situation, right? Because BJ Hill, for instance, what this guy has always wanted, even when he was in New York, was just an opportunity to prove himself. He finally got that opportunity in Cincinnati to prove himself, and you teams are going to come calling, right? Teams are going to come calling for him. He's younger out of the two players. You would certainly think he's got more tread on the tires because of his lack of playing time. But then you look at Larry Ogunjobi. Larry Ogunjobi is a guy that his sole purpose for taking the 1-year deal in Cincinnati was he thought that he would have a ridiculous year, which he did have. And he thought that he would then be able to price himself out and get a bigger contract. Then he gets hurt in the wild card game, right? Which kind of throws a wrench in those plans. So it's all going to come down to what are teams willing to offer Larry Ogunjobi. If Larry Ogunjobi's market isn't shaping up the way he thought it was going to shape up, he might be in a situation where he has to take another 1-year prove-it deal. And then you have to ask yourself, what do you do? Do you take Larry Ogunjobi, who would play on a 1-year prove-it deal, or would you bring back a guy like Larry Ogunjobi, a guy like BJ Hill, who probably won't cost as much, but he has more tread on the tires. He's an ascending player, so to speak. You're paying for potential, so you're really caught between a rock and a hard place right now when it comes to those two players. If I were the Cincinnati Bengals, again, I'm not speaking for them, but if I were the Cincinnati Bengals, I would honestly go with BJ Hill. I had to wrap up him long term. He's the younger player out of two. He has a higher upside. And that the guy is going to, the guy wants to play, right? He's not looking for his next big contract. He's looking for a place that's going to give him a real opportunity to prove himself. And when he got that opportunity in Cincinnati, he ran with it. So if I was them, I would sign BJ Hill, but I'm not sure.
Interesting. They both had a hell of a year. Malik, they helped themselves out for sure this year. Tom, anything else on that? I know you had some.
Yeah, Malik, you mentioned Eli Apple. And he did. He probably hit his finest year as a pro this year.
For sure.
And, there was no official announcement, but became that third starting cornerback. At the same time, when the chips were on the line, the Rams knew exactly where to attack in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Do you foresee, is there a name out there? Is there somebody hot that you could see? I mean, in the NFL is different. It used to be if you had 3 good cornerbacks, that was a lot. Now you need 5 on your roster. You need 5 guys who can go in and play.
Right.
You see, is there a name out there? Is there a free agent that fits the system that you think the Bengals may be calling tomorrow morning to legally tamper with? Is
there are a lot of,
without naming a name? Is there?
I'm going to
sound
like Zach Taylor right now. There are a lot of players out there. There are a lot of people that the Bengals could certainly reach out to that would be welcome additions to this football team. However, it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. What you may see a player as, what you may view a player price that they may view themselves in an entirely different light. For a lot of these guys, the first time they're hitting free agency in their careers as well. So they want to, obviously get the maximum dollar amount as well. So winning might not be as top of mind as some people may think. Yeah, but if you're asking me, my personal opinion, a guy like Dante Jackson, he's a guy that you guys have heard me talk about time and time again. If you follow me on Twitter, you've heard me reference Dante Jackson. He's a guy who I feel like he has a lot of untapped potential. He's probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest, cornerback in the NFL as well, and a former first-round pick out of LSU for the Carolina Panthers. And they obviously, they brought in Stephon Gilmore. They traded for they traded for what's the kid's name from Jacksonville? That was the Jacksonville's cornerback. They drafted J.C. Horn. But they drafted another kid from they traded for another kid from Jacksonville earlier this season. I forgot who he was. He was a first rounder. So they're in a weird spot with the cornerback position over in Carolina, to where I think that they're not going to be looking to bring back Dante Jackson, even though they said they were interested in doing that early in the season. It was much more lip service. Dante Jackson's a guy that I think fits well. He needs to work on his tackling a little bit more, and I know that's something that this defense, you have to be able to do. It's one of the basic necessities. You have to be able to tackle. But if you're talking about a guy that can pluck the ball out of the air and give your offense more opportunities to put more points on the board, Dante Jackson's that.
Interesting. Josh, I know you wanted to hit some more free agent targets, right?
Yes, sir. I sure did. Malik, while I have you, buddy, I got my phone up here. I got a list of some of the free agents. I just want to rattle off some of the names, and you just give us just a couple quick insights on those guys.
Sure.
So mainly, let's start with the offensive line. What do you think about bringing back Riley Reif or Quentin Spain?
I like both of those guys. I think Quentin Spain did very, very well when he was here in Cincinnati. I was really, really high on that midseason signing when we did sign him. I think he has a lot of untapped potential. He's a guy who's not going to cost a lot. He's also a locker room guy, culture guy. Like he loves being in Cincinnati, and he loves the team as well. So I think the world of Quentin Spain. I still think that there's more there. I think that there aren't too many other places in the league that would, you put Quentin Spain, and Quentin Spain would be able to play at as high of a level as he played here in Cincinnati. Now, he didn't always look great in Cincinnati, obviously, but I think that has to do with a lot of the people he was playing around, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm a fan of Quentin Spain. Riley Reif he was a pro's pro, right? When he was here in Cincinnati, he was great, but you have to ask yourself, okay, he's getting older, health, right? And is he worth what he was getting paid this year? And I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't mind bringing back Riley Reif, but I certainly think you can do better.
Okay, that's a great answer, man. Thank you for that. Sure. What about locker room leader CJ Uzomah?
Sure, CJ is great. Think the world of CJ. CJ's everyone's favorite Bengal, right? But I don't think that CJ Uzomah should stop you from upgrading the tight end position if there's a potential to upgrade there.
Yeah. But what do you think he'll command? About 8 million, 7 million?
I think CJ is a team player, and he's a locker room guy. I think he will do whatever it takes to see Cincinnati succeed because it's a place he wants to be, and I certainly expect him to be back in Cincinnati.
It could also be said about CJ that his worth as a Bengal might be more than any other franchise, and vice versa.
Right.
The Bengals may need that guy more than any other franchise move. So yeah, like you, I think that's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to work out the first couple of days of free agency, but I do think it's going to work out.
I think CJ is a guy they can say, hey CJ, let us sign some other guys first, and we're going to take care of you. We want to bring you back. So I don't think CJ will be pressed. I don't think there'll be too many teams knocking down CJ's door like we need to grab CJ.
Right.
No disrespect either. That's just the landscape of the National Football League.
Well, speaking of disrespect, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What about Eli Apple?
Eli Apple, I certainly think Eli Apple will be back in Cincinnati next year because I don't think that there are a lot of places in the NFL that Eli Apple will be playing. People forget there weren't a lot of teams interested in Eli Apple last year. One has to even question if Cincinnati didn't come calling, would Eli Apple be in the National Football League this year? That's very real. He was a guy that was sitting at home, and Cincinnati called him in the late stages of free agency, and they were able to get the deal done. Yeah, I think Eli Apple will be brought back. I don't think Eli Apple will be a starter next year, though.
But you know what, Malik, that's interesting about Eli. I'm okay with Eli coming back. There's a lot of Bengal fans a little salty about Eli giving up a touchdown, but he had a hell of a year. He really did.
Right. The fact of the matter is Eli came in, right, when the chips were on the table and people were down on him. People were saying he's awful, this, that, and third. And certainly he had his moments. He had one of his best years as a pro. He played a lot higher than the guy we paid, $15 million or whatever it was to come in and play. And he played a lot more snaps than him. And he was efficient and he was adorable. So, I mean, that's, the best ability is availability. And Eli Apple certainly showed up.
There's nothing wrong with having quality depth, especially along the offensive line and the cornerback position. Because, like I said, you need 5 cornerbacks on that roster, and really you need probably 7 or 8 offensive linemen. It's we were overall very lucky with injuries last year, kind of balanced off what's been happening around here. But it would be nice that when a guy is banged up and twists an ankle and he's going to miss a game, that instead of the sky is falling, it's okay. We got the next guy. We're good this week. He'll be back. Let's go.
Right. Absolutely agree.
So Malik, let's talk about obviously some big news today, man. So let's talk about this guy right here and the effect of Tom Brady announcing his comeback to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the upcoming season. How does that affect this Jensen?
Yeah, I think Jensen, I think Gronk, I think anybody who, donned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform, if there's a potential for them to come back, they'll be back. They'll find a way. And you better believe Tom Brady's not going to come back, to sign back up to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback if, he didn't have his starting center.
Let me ask you this, though, Malik. I think we had some good conversations prior to you coming on before the show started.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still holding out a little hope, man. I got to stay optimistic. So is Jensen willing to kind of sign a 1-year deal with Tampa just to play one more year, or do the Bengals give him maybe a 3-year deal? Could it come down to a longer-term deal with Cincinnati and the money? I don't know.
I think it'll be a lot of teams that are in play for Ryan Jensen, right? Not just the Bengals. And I to be honest with you, I think Ryan Jensen could command a lot more money than a lot of people are anticipating. He is by far and away the best center on the market, right? He's a guy that could I saw a report where it was he can command Joe Tooney type of money. I'm not going to go that far, but I do think he could command about $14 million. And you have to ask yourself, are the Bengals willing to pay that? Remember, Joe Tooney got paid around 18. Are the Bengals willing to pay a starting center that kind of money? And I understand how good he is, right? I understand how good he is. Regardless of with the success the Cincinnati Bengals have had this season, the Bengals are in a very lucrative spot, guys, right? Where they no longer have to overpay for guys because the Bungles, that's the stigma that they have in the outside media. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl after Joe Burrow got sacked, 70 times all on the season, right? With Trey Hopkins at center, with Jonah Williams at left tackle, with Quentin Spain at left guard, with Hernsicles at right guard, and right tackle with Isaiah Prince. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl. The fact is the matter is players are going to want to play for Joe Burrow. It doesn't matter if it's not about money. It's going to be about do we want to play for the guy that got sacked 70 times and never once threw his offensive line under the bus, never once complained, never once wavered. And he stood up there on the podium after limping up and down the field. And we saw it, Jim. You went to games. You guys went to games. You saw it. Joe Burrow beat up on the field and never once complaining. That's the kind of guy. But it's just for that exact same reason why a guy like Ryan Jensen would want to play for Tom Brady, because Tom Brady is that same exact alpha. Tom Brady is that same type of player, right? These guys, the reason why these guys would even consider leaving is because Tom Brady was going to retire. Tom Brady is considered the GOAT for a reason, and I just don't see Ryan Jensen and those guys leaving. I think that they're going to run it back with the exact same team that they have. It's nobody wants to leave. I'm sure it's nice weather in Tampa. It's you're not taxed. You know what I mean? It's a lot of good things going for them over in Tampa. There's a lot of things that Tampa can offer that Cincinnati can't. And
hey, we got our chili here. We've got the beautiful Ohio River. I'm just saying, I'm holding out hope. I'm hoping he leaves Tom Brady out without a center, but we'll see. We'll see. So let's talk about this guy right here, Malik. We've had a lot of conversations the last week about Collins here, man. So let's talk about this dude right here. He'd be a great fit for us. That's for sure.
Yeah. There are a lot of teams that have tried to show interest in him. Miami Dolphins being one of them. I was even told the Chargers were poking around a little bit. I haven't heard too much about the Bengals front about it. That's not to mean that the Bengals are not interested. It's not something I've heard, and I don't really do too much of the rumors when it comes to the Bengals. I like to report on information that is concrete. I definitely could see there's a situation where they could be interested. I know Frank Pollock is enamored with him. I know Frank Pollock thinks the world of him. He's a reason why he landed in Dallas, right? When everybody wrote him off, so to speak. Frank Pollock was the guy like, no, I want him. He's big, he's physical, he's nasty. He's what do they say? A glass eater, right? He's literally Frank Pollock's type of guy. I'll tell you one thing, and Bengals fans aren't going to like this, but I'm going to tell you right now. The best thing that the Bengals could do, hear me out, and I hope you guys are listening. The best thing that the Bengals could do is hope that the Cowboys release him and that he's free agency, because I think that's one of the Bengals' best shots at actually landing him, because he has the familiarity with his offensive line coach and Frank Pollock, the guy that first took a chance on him in the National Football League. I know people might look at that like I'm not sure about that, but there's something about being familiar and also wanting to play for a winner. Remember, Lyle Collins will be able to get to decide where he wants to go. Say a team comes in and calls the Dallas Cowboys and they offer them a second-round pick for Lyle Collins. Everyone sees them trading Amari Cooper for what they traded him for, but yeah, people forget a lot of Amari Cooper's contract was front-loaded. It wasn't a huge amount of money over years. A lot of it was front-loaded, so the Cowboys had paid a lot of it. They were just trying to get the rest of that salary off the books because there was still a hefty amount still left to be paid out, but a lot of the guarantees and all that was all up front. So I think that there's certainly a situation where a team could come in and offer a boatload of money for a guy like Lyle Collins and just simply outprice the Bengals. Because listen, at the end of the day, regardless of how much success the Bengals have had, something I actually appreciate about the organization and this team, which is why I think they'll be able to sustain the success. They're not going to just change their stripes overnight, right? They will obviously go in to try to win because they obviously saw a glaring hole on their football team, which is their offensive line, but they're not going to go buku crazy just because they have a quarterback on a rookie contract and go like, you know what, because we got the money, we're just going to throw a ridiculous amount of money. That's what happens to a lot of these teams when they got these players on their rookie deals. And then what happens in year 4 of that deal, right? When it's time to re-sign a guy like Joe Burrow, when it is time to re-sign a guy like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, they have to then go to those same exact big free agents that they signed and say, hey, can we do a restructure of your contract? Or, hey, we have to cut you. And then you're back to square one where you could have just played it smart and you didn't just overly pay and go super crazy. And if you don't believe me, just ask the Cleveland Browns how that's working out for them.
Yeah, true story. So, Blake, anybody else out there in free agency you could talk about that potentially could be a fit for us?
I think that there are a lot of guys, but here's a guy people aren't talking about enough. Laken Tomlinson. I mentioned him months and months and months ago. Got to look at guys that fit this exact scheme, guys that are physical, guys that are nasty, guys that are used to playing this zone, West Coast zone scheme, right? He plays for the Kyle Shanahans of the world. That's a guy that could certainly, plug and play right here in Cincinnati. There are other options outside of just the names, we're hearing, right? There's a guy like Andrew Norwell. I know he doesn't necessarily fit the scheme, but he's one of the most I would say stable guards in the National Football League. It has been for quite some time. He's one of the few bright spots on that Jaguars offensive line. So there are definitely other people outside of just the huge names, right? Everybody wants the Terran Armsteads and the Riley Jensen's or Ryan Jensen's and this the guy and that guy. There are so many more talented offensive linemen. No, don't throw the name Connor Williams at me. He is not a good football player. I'm sorry. I watched enough tape on him. You can't sell me on that guy. He's not good. But there are certainly a lot of other good players out there that can certainly solidify and help solidify this offensive line, and I think the Bengals are going to find them too.
Malik, with that, the Bengals had said, how are you going to address the offensive line?
Mm-hmm.
Free agency, yes. Through the draft, yes. And through their young guys, yes. Guys improving.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see Jackson Carman stepping up a little bit more in the second year? And if so, do you see him on the left side where his footwork might come a little more natural to him? Or do you think they put him back at right guard or even a floater to right tackle? There was some talk that a couple of things. One, he did come off back surgery last year.
Yeah.
And two, that he maybe needed to mature a little bit. And they seem to be confident that that's going to happen from the conversations I've had. Do you see him being a contributor next year?
I could see him being a contributor. It just matters what. A contributor could mean a lot of things, right? Contributor could mean holding my shoulder pads on the side, or a contributor could be just, being that guy in practice that's able to simulate things and stuff like that. As it was told to me a few weeks back, while we were still in season, the Bengals are not interested in, drafting guys necessarily. Like, don't get me wrong, they'll add players to the draft. They're done, banking on someone's development to put in front of Joe Burrow. They want proven guys. They want proven commodities in the National Football League because they believe that they have something special on their hands. And I certainly believe the starters you will see in front of Joe Burrow will be guys with experience, guys that have started for other teams, and guys that aren't just some, flash pan, so to speak. They're guys that can actually play at a high level. So I expect the 5 starting offensive linemen. I believe Jonah will obviously be one of them. I don't know where he'll be. I know he won't be a center, but I don't know where he'll be. But I certainly think the people that will be starting in front of Joe Burrow next year will be guys that are solidified in the National Football League.
Well, it's really odd because last year everybody was concerned about the offensive line in the offseason. And we had Jonah at left tackle, but really we had questions at left guard, center because of Trey's injury, right guard, and right tackle. This year going into this offseason, we've got Jonah at left tackle, but we've got questions at left guard, potentially center, right guard, and right tackle. So we haven't exactly, moved the bar up all that much, despite the efforts of the organization.
Right. I mean, it feels like offensive line. If you don't mind his opinion, Tom, I don't think the offensive line has been fixed since Clint Boylan and guys like Kevin Zeitler and Andrew walked out the door. I don't think the offensive line has been fixed, and I hate to say it, but how long could you see that? And because we don't want to talk about it enough. That's what did Andy in too. That's what made Andy start seeing ghosts and stuff like that. Andy's sack numbers started to go up higher and higher and higher. Andy Dalton was definitely not even half the quarterback that Joe Burrow is. But hooday, that's awesome. I certainly think that I certainly think that the offensive line has been a bigger issue than I think we all tend to have like a short memory where we think the offensive line became an issue just when Joe Burrow was drafted. The offensive line has been an issue since 2016.
Right.
Now, Malik, real quick. So I agree with you. So let's break that down a little bit. They tried, right? They had Cedric Ogbuehi,
Jake Fisher,
Billy Price,
Christian Westerman.
We've just missed so horribly. It's a shame that we've whiffed so many times. But they have tried, but they can't miss this time.
The Bengals tried to be smart. They tried to be the smartest kid in the room when they drafted Cedric Ogbuehi and Jake Fisher. They were preparing for the future. And on paper, it looked like it was a damn good move. It was like, yes, they got their tackles of the future. They didn't take into account that Witt would be offended by them going out there drafting a guy like Cedric Ogbuehi, who were like, hey, that's going to be your future replacement, so to speak. And, lo and behold, that's when Witt, I think he wanted more correct me if I'm wrong, Jim. I believe that it was one point where he wanted more like security in his contract, so to speak, where he wanted another year added on.
He wanted longevity.
Yeah, he wanted longevity. And then, when he got to a point where the Bengals weren't willing to pay him what he wanted to pay him, that's when he left. And we were forced to ride the hand with Cedric Ogbuehi and Jake Fisher. And I think we all knew in the limited spots because the Bengals tried to get them on the field, right? Like, when you have a good offensive lineman, right? They're going to be guys that are so good to the point where you can't get them off the field, so to speak. You know what I mean? You're going to have to find a spot on the field somewhere for them to play, whether it be guard or tackle, whatever it's going to be. And back then, I believe we still had Marshall Newhouse,
right.
and guys like that. So that told you everything you needed to know. That one draft, and let this be note to future teams or whoever sees this, one draft could really set you back because it felt like ever since then the Bengals were trying to play catch up.
And Malik, there's somebody in the comment here, and I love Dustin Davis here, but I think is a little wrong when he's talking about that offensive line hasn't been fixed since Max Montoya left in the late 80s. So I disagree with that, right? Yeah. So we had a really good stretch there up until about 15 where the offensive line was pretty good. We had depth and started going downhill from there. But it seems to have gone in cycles. And like Josh said, we hit over the years really well. And this last stretch, recent history, we've not hit at all with these draft picks for the offensive line. So. But so help us understand. I guess I'm going to get to a couple more things, Malik. Talk about, Josh, I think, did I have you talking about the franchise tag or I can't remember?
No, I was just asking about the current free agents. I did have a pair I did want to ask about. We switched to a different topic. What about I know it's only $3 million probably, but do you bring back Kevin Huber and Clark Harris, or do you go younger and cheaper at the position?
I bring back Clark Harris.
That's the answer.
Hey, Kevin Huber's a local kid. He's had a great run. You could probably say he's the best punter in Bengals history. With Ken Wright, played more games than anybody else, but there, God love him, there was a drop off this year. It was just maybe, for whatever reason, there was a drop off, and they had Drew Chrisman, who was looking good last training camp till he got injured, and he'll be back.
I don't blame him, though.
No,
because there was a span between 2016 up until, I want to say this year, where Kevin Huber was the MVP of our football team, where he was punting a ridiculous amount of times a game. And there's such thing as how they say a quarterback's arm just fell off? I think we've reached that point with him as a punter.
His legs tired.
He's given his most to the football team as he could. And I know there was a couple of years back when he had the incident where the linebacker from the Steelers broke his jaw. Kevin Huber contemplated retirement back then. He really thought he was going to have to retire, and I think that this now situation where considering his play is taking a dramatic, nosedive, so to speak. I think that this could be a situation where he does consider retirement. However, I do think Kevin will want to see how he looks, going into the season, training camp, whatever the case may be. I don't ever see him suiting up for anyone else. I think if Kevin Huber can't cut it here, he's going to retire.
Nice. So, Malik, I got a couple more things here for you. Everybody that's watching right now, we've got a lot of questions. Any questions you have for Malik, we'll throw a couple out at him. Type them in the chat area, and we'll pop them up here in a little bit for Malik. So get your questions typed in the chat area. We'll get to them here. Malik, I know the answer to this, but I think we've had so many questions, direct messages on this about the franchise tag and Jesse Bates. I guess talk a little bit about how do players and agents look at the franchise tag, and talk a little bit about Jesse Bates.
I think that players look at it as a disrespectful thing, as a negative. They look at it as a thing where it's like, oh, damn, like, you don't value me. And agents look at it as like, God damn, like we just wanted to test the market, so to speak. And I think teams look at it as, we actually really value this guy. We want this to work. You know what I mean? And we're willing to do whatever it takes to work. And all the franchise tag simply does is it gives us an extension. It gives us some time to find a common ground if there is one to be had. Very rarely, right, when a player does have to play on a franchise tag, you could sort of, then start to read the tea leaves if things don't kind of get done. Or it could be a Justin Simmons situation where Justin Simmons played on the franchise tag, I believe, 2 years in a row. Funny thing enough, Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons have the exact same agent in David Mulgeta. I will say this. I actually had a chance to speak and meet with Jesse Bates' agent. He was in Cincinnati for one of the games earlier this season, and Jesse wants to be in Cincinnati. Let's just say this. His agent has a reputation of making sure that all his players break the bank. They are like the top paid players at their position. It's the same agent for Aaron Rodgers and so on and so forth, right? They always break the bank no matter what. That's what Athletes First is all about. That's why they're taking the sports world by storm. It's what they do. I think that if Jesse Bates would have kept his former agent, this contract would have been done already. Here's the crossroads the Bengals are at. The Bengals would have loved to pay Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates is the reason why the Bengals had almost 100% attendance, this offseason and stuff like that. He's a great locker room leader, but he started thinking with his pockets, right? Instead of actually just going out there and just started playing ball, which is why he had a quote unquote down year. But when he let it all loose and the postseason came, he actually looked like the old Jesse Bates. He looked
balled out.
Certainly did.
Completely balled out. So the Bengals are like, hey, it has to match. You were unproductive this year, yet and still not Jesse, but Jesse's agent is asking for him to be paid like one of the top premier safeties in the league. I'm talking like top 3. And at that point, the dollars have to make sense. They know Jesse's capable of it, but how do we know we won't get the guy that was not playing at an all-pro level? How do we know we're going to get that old Jesse Bates back? Well, Jesse's like, you know what? You don't know. Now you just saw what I did in the postseason. You even saw me have an interception in the Super Bowl. That's the guy you're getting. Bank on me. So now it's like, do we trust that? Are we the guy? Is he the guy that performed out of his mind in the postseason, or is he the guy that we saw, or early in the regular season? Is he that guy that we saw the last 3 years and in the postseason, or is he the guy that we saw in the regular season? And I believe Jesse Bates is the guy that we saw in the postseason.
Yeah, he let that contract stuff get in his head, man. It definitely affected him early in the season. So
absolutely.
Let's go to a couple questions, Malik. So there's a ton in here. I'm only going to go to a couple of them here, but Greg's asking about Bozeman.
I think every offensive lineman's a possibility.
Easy. That's the first quick one there.
I think everybody's a possibility, especially guys that Taylor might be familiar with. Anybody's a possibility at the offensive line position. I don't want to rule anyone out except for Cedric Ogbuehi.
All right, this is a great question right here. I love this one. If you go back and change one draft pick in the last 5 years, which one would it be? Just one.
John Ross.
Damn. Didn't even hesitate. All right, let's keep going here. I'm trying to sort through these damn things. Let's see right here. Is it possible to trade for a first pick for an O-line help? That's on the table, I would assume, right?
Oh, everything's possible.
Okay. All right, Malik. Let's see. Man, there's a lot of them in here.
Do we agree to a contract with a free agent offensive line tomorrow? Anything's possible. We'll see.
He says with a grin.
Yeah, so let's walk through this. I mean, just because it's confusing, man, because a lot of people don't understand this. So tomorrow really starts the legal tampering, right? Free legal tampering. Then Wednesday at 4:00, free agency starts, if I'm not correct. We talked a little bit about that.
So basically, tomorrow noon, teams can virtually agree to a contract, meaning I can call you on your phone and say, Jim, I want to sign to you a 5-year contract for $48 million. And you can say yes. And then what happens is an agent says, my client, Jim, is going to team Malik for 5 years, $48 million. Breaking news, Jim is signing with Malik Team Malik for $48 million for 5 years. Contract cannot become official until Wednesday. Then Tom calls Jim and says, Jim, hey, buddy, I got 6 years for you, $78 million. Which one do you want to take? So basically, it's a verbal agreement. Most teams stay to it and stuff like that. But during that span between Monday and Wednesday, a team can call and offer you a ridiculous amount of money. But typically speaking, if a team isn't willing to go outbid another team, a lot like the DJ Reader situation that happened in Cincinnati with Broncos, typically they'll just sign with the team that offer them the most. They don't usually go back on it.
Yep. And as this continues to go, I think we have the dates right. Josh and Tom and I were talking about this earlier. June 1st is also a big day as well, right? Because there's going to be some cap hits. Some players might be hitting the market at that point as well.
Veteran cutdown day.
Veteran cutdown day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Bengals really can't sit back and wait for that, for the what ifs on that. They've got to figure out how to address this in free agency, I would assume, right, Malik?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Got it. Tom, Josh, anything else here before I
one more. What about the draft? I guess kind of wait and see what happens through free agency. But do you have anyone in the draft that you got your eye on?
Any guy that I have my eye on?
Is there a guy that you think that you'd like to see in stripes?
There are a lot of guys I would like to see in stripes. I am a fan of a lot of the defensive backs in this draft class. Yeah.
It's not a bad year for Malik. Something it's been brought up a little bit, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And God forbid if something does happen to Joe Burrow, but even if, like I mentioned earlier, if he has to miss a week with a sprained and, twisted ankle, something like that. Do you see them upgrading the backup quarterback position this offseason?
I think they will attempt to. I don't think they'll break down barriers to do it, though. I think they really like Brandon Allen. I like Brandon Allen, honestly. I think that they certainly can, and I think there's an opportunity for them to do so. I don't think Brandon Allen's bad, though. I think that the fact that we were able to get as much as we did get out of Brandon Allen with that as bad as that offensive line that we did have, what's wrong with bringing the guy back? You know what I mean? What's wrong with bringing the guy back? He didn't play terrible down the stretch. Even I remember when we played the Texans. I get it was the Texans, but he outplayed Deshaun Watson when we played them. And he threw for like 400 some odd yards.
AFC Player of the Week that week.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Brandon Allen is a bad guy I think he's a good guy to have in Cincinnati.
Got it. Well, Malik, brother, there's so many questions in here, brother.
Feel free to throw more at me. I
don't want to sort some of them. I should not put up here, but so here's there's a lot of repetitive ones. But Andy Dalton, maybe.
No.
I'm with you on that.
Andy is not a fan of Zach Taylor.
He benched him on his birthday.
That's it. There's a lot of repeat questions in there, Malik, a ton, and everybody's wanting you to give them something spicy, something juicy, right? So
here's one thing I will give you something spicy. Breaking news headline, Wright Report is saying it live on a Bengal Gym show. The Bengals will be active in free agency. Guarantee you that. Book it. The offensive line will look different. They understand the changes that they need to make, and you can bet your behind they're going to make those changes. They're going to do everything in the power they have to do to, sort of upgrade the offensive line. That left, I will say this, that last play left a image in their mind that they will not forget. You had Jamar Chase streaking down the sideline wide open, and all Joe Burrow needed was another second. And he would have found him. He would have found him against the number one cornerback in the National Football League, or the consensus number one cornerback in the National Football League. That was a still frame image in Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn and Tobin. That was a still frame image in their minds. And they say, you know what? That's the story of our season, right? So close, but yet so far. And I certainly believe they're going to make the necessary adjustments. And I think you're going to be very, very happy. I'll say that with the Bengals doing free agency.
Yeah. So Dustin asked here, how many new starters do you see on the offensive line next year?
Very least, I'll say 2, but I personally think it's going to be 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm got it. Well, Malik, Brody, I know you've been busy as hell. I know all the stuff that I know, and brothers there's no off season of football anymore. There's a lot of work, and I know you're putting a lot of stuff in. I know we're getting ready to get into free agents here, Malik. I know everybody that's watching right now, if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter, follow Malik, one of the best follows. If you want breaking news and potential hints at maybe something happening down the road, Malik's our guy. Because
I do have a question for him before he goes, Jimmy.
Uh-oh.
And I mentioned this before he came on. Do you have bugs and or cameras inside Paul Brown Stadium in the management wing? Because, last year you were reporting things nobody had heard about. You were reporting them a full day before they happened. You were breaking everybody. You were outbreaking everybody by like a full day.
I think he just got lucky, Tom. That's what happened.
Is he? Maybe you're over in Bengal Jim's tailgate with one of those radar guns listening.
Right.
To what they're saying.
I will say this. I've made a lot of great relationships with a lot of people in that building long before this regime. This is dating all back to the Marvin era. And I've kept those relationships, and the relationships have just gotten stronger over time. And I think the biggest thing why people respect me in that building and a lot of places that I go is because I'll never put the team. Number one, I am a Bengals fan. For those of you who are watching, I'll never put a team in a position to where, they'll put themselves in a situation where they don't have an opportunity to grab a free agent or something like that. To me, there's no benefit in me saying, hey, the Bengals are interested in so-and-so player. If anything, you're putting more them have to outbid with other teams. So there were reports that came out a few weeks ago, like Bengals are going to sign Ryan Jensen. I'm like, come on. What are we doing here? Free agency hasn't started. At the very least, even if that does happen, guess what that falls under, buddy? That falls under illegal tampering. So even if that does happen, and Cincinnati did do that exact contract and stuff like that, it wouldn't look good. So me personally, I'll never do anything that'll put those people in an uncomfortable position or put the team in an uncomfortable position. I'll always make sure I cross my T's, dot my I's, and report on factual stuff. I feel like that's what's wrong with media nowadays. We have a lot of people just wanting to be first to a story, not wanting to report the correct story, which is why my name on Twitter is Wright Report. Sure, it has my last name, but it also is I want to report what's right, what's factual. And if you would have followed me earlier today, you would have seen that I actually dropped a hint about Brady when I heard it earlier this morning that Brady might be, I couldn't believe it. I didn't think it was real. And because I know that the Panthers and the Buccaneers were neck and neck for the Tom Brady sweepstakes, and the Buccaneers late last night dropped themselves out of the ring, the name, so to speak, for Deshaun Watson, so to speak. And that's where the Saints came in and all that kind of stuff. So now it's between the Saints and the Panthers. And I didn't know why. And I was just told TB12. TB12. And I said, TB12. No, that's not happening. And he was like, nope, it's going to happen. And certainly, sure enough, Tom Brady's back. Which is why I tweeted.
One more. I mean, I got so many of them just flowing in here. I can't keep up with it. I've never really produced from scratch. Malik, our producer, wasn't going to be on the show today. So talk about our guy Wayne's, man. Just a big pickup when we got him, but he really hasn't played.
Yeah, it would take a lot for Trey Waynes to be a Bengal next year. Yeah. Hail Mary and a prayer.
Got it. Well, Malik, brother, we appreciate your time, man. It means a lot. I can't wait for free agency to get started here, bud. We'll stay in touch and make sure you guys are following Malik on Twitter and all the social media platforms because he does a hell of a job. Him and his team. He's got a whole team with him here doing stuff. So we appreciate it, Malik. It means a lot.
Malik, thanks for making time for us, man.
Of course, anytime, guys. Anytime you guys need me to jump on, I'll jump on. Appreciate it.
Hey, real quick, Malik. So people that are watching and don't know. So when you were in town, we got a little football game together up at Coleraine High School.
Yes, sir.
Malik was a quarterback. He was a defensive back. He was straight up had a cannon. I know his arm was hurting after that, but that was a lot of fun, Malik, watching you guys play.
You got to do it again soon. We got to get you back out of quarterback again. That's
Absolutely, buddy. We'll talk to you later, man.
I'll see you guys. Keep up the great work. See you.
See you, big dog. Bye.
He's the very best.
He's a trip, man. He knows his stuff, and he's got a lot of stuff going on. And guys, I'm telling you, just watching Malik, man, he is really taking off. Every year, he just gets more recognition around everything that he's doing, man. He's done a hell of a job. So, all right, guys, I guess we're it, man. Josh, just to let you know, we got a lot of folks in here that were typing in some stuff about the bobblehead. So we're going to pop this up one more time. So people that were asking about the bobblehead, tell them how they can get that bobblehead again.
So the easiest way is to shoot an email to cincybobs@yahoo.com. When you do that, just simply say, this is my name. I'm interested in one or two, and I'll put you on the reserved list. I set it aside for you so you don't have to worry about rushing to get it on Saturday. We will be at Heirloom Framing on Saturday, March 19th. That's going to be from noon till 4. You can come pick up your bobblehead. We accept cash. We accept PayPal. Like I said, portion of the proceeds go to the Anthony Munoz Foundation. So just shoot me an email to that address that you saw on the screen, cincybobs@yahoo.com. And we'll reserve it for you. We also offer shipping, but it's going to be about $15 to ship.
Got it. Guys, we're done. Let's go ahead and do some closing comments here, and I'll kind of give the scoop to everybody what's going on with the show for the rest of the year and what we're planning on doing. So, Josh, you're going to go ahead and just kind of give us your closing statements.
Yeah, excited for free agency. I agree with Malik. Awesome guest, man. He's awesome. That's actually my first. I've never met him or talked to him before, so that was great. I agree with them. I'm thinking 3 new starters on the offensive line. I think they're going to be, aggressive. I think they're going to attack it. There should be a lot of breaking news from the Cincinnati Bengals tomorrow on free agents that have agreed to sign here in Cincinnati. So I'm excited for that. I got my season tickets this year, so I'm excited to be down there with you guys every game this year. And hopefully this Cincy Bobs thing takes off because I'm really excited to get these collectibles into the fans' hands. I think it's going to be a great addition to memorabilia.
It's gonna be good. Tom?
This franchise took such a monstrous step this year. With the exception of you, Jimmy, it exceeded every dream all of us had. And I think in these next couple of weeks, they're going to take that next step. Not just, I think there are Super Bowl championships in the Bengals' future, but also a way to establish themselves as one of the dominant teams in the NFL for this next era, this next decade plus. And I think we're going to see signs of that in the next 2 days.
Yep. Man, I'm looking forward to it, man. I as we're talking here, I did get a text because, so with Brady announcing that the chances Jensen coming, obviously probably not a good thing for us. But at the end of the day, I agree with Malik. There's guys out there. We got to find some established players out there, like Malik said. The last thing we want to do is throw 2 new rookies on the offensive line through the draft to block for Joe. We need some established vets that can come in and do the job. So, guys, we appreciate this is kind of an impromptu, last-minute episode we wanted to throw on right before. This is supposed to be – we initially agreed on taking a long break here. But James and Jamie will be back at some point here. But until then, we are going to be back next week, next Sunday night, 8 o'clock, same time, same place. Just like we've done the past 2 or 3 years. During football season, we go Tuesday nights. Outside of football season, like we are now, we're going to go back to Sunday nights, 8 o'clock. So, guys, we appreciate you being there for us. We appreciate all the help of the charities that we're bringing to the table. And if you're able to help us out, the Leukemia Society Foundation, it's on our social media platforms. We appreciate it. Hey, here's to the Bengals. Hopefully this time next week, we've got at least one new starter on that offensive line, maybe two. But here's to the third straight year of free agency for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's been over $200 million the last 2 years of free agency. Like Malik said, I agree with him. I think you're going to see the Bengals step up and do the same damn thing this year. They know they've got those holes to fill, and it's going to be exciting when we start filling them and get back to the Super Bowl again, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you guys next Sunday. Who day, guys?
Who day?
Happy free agency.